Hello there, you're watching WilhelMiniatures. In this episode, I will dive into the crazy world of Alice Madness Returns, which is a video game from 2011 that has a twisted take on the classic Alice in Wonderland story. In this first episode of the series, I will be making a few Insidious Ruins. The Insidious Ruin is the most common enemy in the game, and I really like the design of this one. It really fits my usual style, and this one actually looks a little bit like some demons I have made in the past. The first thing I need for my ruin is an appropriate face. Over the years, I have collected a quite impressive collection of baby dolls and weird little angel statues. And I think that some of these faces might be appropriate for a ruin. This material is kind of horrible to work with. And yeah, it's super difficult to cut, and if you manage to cut it, it will most likely break like porcelain, so you will get... Yeah, it's quite nice for terrain, because you can actually smash it with a hammer and make some very nice sharp cracks, but for what I want to do, this will not work. So what I think I will do is to try to copy some of the faces using blue stuff, or Uyumaru as it's called. After about 30 seconds in boiling water, the blue stuff becomes very flexible, and now is the time to use it. So you can't leave it too long outside of the water, you need to be quite quick, and then really push it into the details you want. When the blue stuff has cooled down, we can just pull it off, and we'll have a quite nice, very quick cast of the object. When the molds are ready, I'm going to push some green stuff, or this is actually a mix of green stuff and milliput, into them. I like to use green stuff and milliput when I sculpt, but any type of epoxy putty will work here. I also like to have a little bit of hand cream ready, so that I can have some on my finger and push them all the way down without having all the putty stick to my finger while I do it. I have cheated a little bit, so I actually filled some of these earlier today. They are not completely dry, but enough to pull out. Here we have what I think is a decent start for this project. I really like this large one, because it's so... yeah, it looks really creepy, especially when I cut the eyes out. So the ones in the game doesn't have eyes, they only have like holes, because they are masks. But I kind of think, like for example, the eyes on this one is super creepy as they are, so I'm not trying to replicate them 100%, instead I'm just trying to make some creepy, oily, yeah, baby-faced demons. So now I will just clean up these bits a little bit, removing hair and adding some lines, maybe even cut out some eyes. And I will do all of this with my clippers and X-Acto blade. Then we have the head covered. So the next thing to do is to find an appropriate arm. For 28mm arms, or arms appropriate to that scale, we have a lot of options, so I think I can easily find something in these kits. So here I'm just choosing the arms that are most appropriate. That's the arms out of the way as well, and now we need to find something for these mechanical bits and pipes on the back. So I think I'm going to make it easy on myself and just use some plastic rods to represent this. In addition, I found some small nails and screws that I can also stick into their backs to have a little bit of variation. Then we have a plan for the pipes as well, and for the rest of the body, I will be using clay. I'm not 100% sure how large I want these to be, because if I want to use them in the game of Warhammer, I think they will be appropriate as lesser demons, so they should be on a 32mm base. However, their masks are supposed to be a little bit small compared to the body, so I think it will be better with a 40mm base. Although I have two different mask sizes, so I could of course make two different sizes and for example use one as a herald and one as a lesser demon, so we'll see. Alright, so they have kind of they have 3 or 4 legs, I think, and they have their heads kind of on the center of their weird body, and they have a very narrow waist compared to like the top of the torso and the shoulders and the back, so they have a very big round lump, maybe a little bit of an upside down pear shape like this, and then the arms will just come out from more or less the top part here. There we go. I think I have 3 appropriate shapes for these ones. Just some weird mushroomy shapes. And then we can add some nails and stuff to their back. Of course, we can only add the metal parts, the screws and the nails at this point, because we are going to bake them. So we will have to wait to add the arms and, of course, the plastic pipes. That's it, I think. So now I will bake them. While waiting for the clay to cure in the oven, I want to start working a little bit on the bases. I think I want to make some cobblestone or tiled bases. So here I'm just cutting out some strips in cardboard. I'm not measuring this at all, but I want to make them approximately the same size. Ideally they should be square and have the same size, so they could look a little bit like squares or like tiles you have inside, but I think this will do just by doing some approximate cutting. You go through a lot of different weird areas and different textured grounds in the Alice Madness Returns game. But for these I just want to do tiles because it's, then they will easily fit into some of my other projects as well. I was thinking about maybe making their bases into playing cards, which would be quite fun, but I think I will wait for using playing cards until I make some terrain for this project. Maybe make some card houses or something. To attach the tiles I will be using Mod Podge. I will apply it quite thickly because I don't want the floor to be perfectly even, as the tiles are not perfect, or they're not like the exact same size. Then it's better to just make everything a little bit rough. And then I will just be laying down my tiles. I will of course cut the edges when the glue has dried. Before I cut the edges smooth, I'm just adding a little bit of Mod Podge to the tops as well, letting it soak into the cardboard to make it a little bit stronger. Looking at the reference, it looks like these creatures are supposed to have like 3 or 4 stubby little legs. I was planning to just make them out of wire and then some clay and then add some texture later. But as I had the blood letters up, I just tried to measure with one of the legs, and I think this leg actually fits quite well. I think it's the correct size. Although it is of course not as stubby as the one I was supposed to use, and they have more joints. But as I said in the beginning, these are not supposed to be direct copies of the ones from the game. They are supposed to be influenced by them. It looks a bit like they all have the same pose, so all of their left legs kind of points backwards, but I want this one to have 3 legs. So I would like it to have yeah, both the front legs pointing forwards. Although I might not use these, use the feet that these ones have, because the other one doesn't have feet. They only have, yeah, their legs end in like pools of black goo. So I might do the same, and then it doesn't matter if the legs are pointing or if the feet are pointing in weird directions. It also fits quite nicely on a 40mm base, which is good because that's the bases that I textured. I ended up with 3 legs on both of these two and 4 legs on the last one to have a little bit of variation. After attaching the arms, these ones are starting to look quite nice. I went with a little bit of a random approach, giving this one 2 arms on one side. This one just keeps the 1 arm, and this one got 2, but yeah, placed a little bit asymmetrically. It's time to do some final green stuffing and blending all the pieces together. Right, I added the green stuff very quickly, just to merge the bits into the fleshy lump in the middle to make them protrude a little bit more. So when I add the texture, they will, yeah, look like a coherent piece. All right, let's make a texture paste. I was planning to use sand for this, but I think that's going to be a little bit coarse, so here I'm trying to use some plaster instead. Wood glue or PVA glue. I think any white glue will do. I think this is also way too much plaster, but we'll see. This is just some, yeah, cheap black acrylic paint, which will make it easier to see when everything is mixed. Ooh. I really hope this works, because I have spent quite a lot of time on these, so if it if it ends up being terrible, or if this mix doesn't work, I don't know. Again, as I said, I've not done this before. So here I'm grabbing an old brush. I will start applying it to the areas where I need some filler. So over the areas I did the green stuff, I think it's important to add some. And I might have to do this in several layers, because I don't know how it's going to dry. But for now it looks quite good. It's very gooey. This is very slimy. Wow. Oh wow, this is fun. I think it's very much like what I was going for. On this one I kind of wanted to run a little bit over the... Oh yeah, look at that. I was able to just make a drop and then kind of place it onto the mask so that it looks like it's running over the mask. It's kind of cool. Let's try another one, thick one there. All right, that was fun. Let's leave these to dry and see how they look later. Good morning. I left these overnight to dry. And what's actually happened is that they have cracked up a little bit, especially around the areas where I applied green stuff before applying the texture. This is not actually that strange, because the green stuff wasn't dry and the glue kind of contracts a little bit when it dries. So when you apply something that shrinks on top of something soft, like uncured green stuff, you will get these lines. But that doesn't really matter. It actually adds a little bit of interest to the effect, but in some areas I think it's a little bit much, so I will try to fix that with some liquid green stuff. But first I want to put them on their appropriate bases. So I lost a lot of the texture on their feet, but that's going to be fine. I don't think I'm going to apply any more of the the texture down on their feet. Instead, I think I'm just going to replicate that look using super glue. Okay, let's paint. These creatures are made up of some nasty black goo. So yeah, the only thing that makes sense is to give them a black base coat. I have of course sprayed these black, but I didn't get it into all the recesses. So here I'm just applying a little bit of black with a brush where I feel it's missing. All right, now they are fully black, but I don't want them to be this flat black. I need a little bit of definition. I'm going to add a little bit of gray to the raised areas. I will just do this with a little bit of dry brushing and stippling, I think, just to bring out these strange folds that I created. I'm mixing in a little bit of rock earth flesh to the gray, just to have it slightly lighter, and also to have a good base coat for the masks. So here I need a lighter dry brush, and I will of course cover the faces completely. And then I'm removing most of the paint from my brush, just to have a very light dry brush on the most raised areas. This will be the final highlight of the black, and this time I will not mix in any gray to the rock earth flesh. This will also be the base coat for the tiles that are not going to be black, the white tiles. So I will paint every other tile in pure rock earth flesh. Alright, after applying rock earth flesh to the faces and the checkers on the base, I want to apply the first highlight, and I will do this by adding some pure white, again using the same semi-large flat brush, and I'm just going to apply it with a little bit of dry brushing and stippling, because these masks are supposed to be very old and cracked, and they look very disgusting. So, and also on the tiles, just stippling a little bit. I'm not caring that much if I get any of the white on the feet or on the other tiles, because I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup with black later. Already at this stage, these look almost finished, so they're going to be super quick to paint. Anyway, we need to do the metals, and I will do that by dry brushing on some gold and silver. Highlighting the tops of these pipes and nails with the silver, just to have the metals pop a little bit more. The final step in the painting process is to apply some pure white. I will apply this in two ways. One is just to apply it to the masks like this, just picking out the raised areas, or the areas I want to be defined a little bit more, as a regular edge highlight. The other thing I want to do is to make the body appear a little bit shiny, because this is supposed to be some kind of oily substance, or at least in the game it looks like it's shining. So I was considering just doing some gloss varnish on top of them, or water effect, just to have them actually reflect light. But instead I think I want to do a little bit of a spot highlight with white instead. So where I have the most reflective surfaces, or the most reflective parts of the shiny black, I will just apply a tiny drop of white, which will read as a very sharp reflection. I painted the base rims black, and now these horrible abominations are finished. Let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see more Alice in Wonderland themed episode. I also think I want to make a few more of these ruins, because it was a lot of fun, and the painting process took like 20 minutes for all of these three. So I can definitely just make a lot of these without much effort. If you would like to see more of my projects, you can find links to my Instagram and Facebook page down below. If you would like to support this channel, please follow the links to my Etsy store and Patreon accounts, which are linked down below as well. Other than that, I will see you in the next one. I'm looking forward to it. Goodbye.